You don't have to react to everything just because it touched you. Some of y'all are giving your energy away on discount, letting every comment, every look, every little inconvenience control your mood, your day, even your identity. But what if I told you your next level isn't about what happens to you, it's about what you refuse to respond to? See, power isn't always loud, growth isn't always visible. Sometimes the real flex is emotional discipline, the ability to stand in the middle of chaos and say, this doesn't move me. Because when you learn to act like it doesn't bother you, you're not pretending, you're training your mind, you're breaking the habit of reaction, you're teaching your spirit, I decide what deserves my attention. And hear me clearly, everything that tries you isn't meant to stop you. Some things are just tests to see if you've grown. So today, we're stepping into a different mindset, less reacting, more rising, less explaining, more evolving. Because when nothing bothers you, everything loses power over you. Guard your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Too many people are walking around exhausted, not because life is too heavy, but because they're carrying things they were never meant to hold. Every conversation doesn't deserve your input. Every opinion doesn't deserve your response. Every situation doesn't deserve your emotional investment. But when you don't recognize the value of your energy, you hand it out freely to people, places, and problems that don't even have the capacity to honor it. And then you wonder why you feel drained at the end of the day. Energy is more than how you feel, it's how you function. It's the fuel behind your decisions, your focus, your discipline, and your growth. When your energy is scattered, your life starts to feel scattered. You can't think clearly, you can't move intentionally, and you definitely can't grow consistently. That's why protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. You can't build a better life if you're constantly pouring into things that don't pour back into you. You can't hear clarity if your mind is full of noise. Some of you have made a habit out of over-engaging. You feel like you need to respond to everything just to prove something, to defend yourself, to be understood, to correct people. But every time you do that, you're spending energy on things that don't actually move your life forward. And the truth is, not every misunderstanding needs clarity. Not every accusation needs a defense. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is silence. Sometimes the most powerful statement is your ability to stay unbothered. When you start guarding your energy, you become more selective. You stop entertaining drama. You stop feeding negativity. You stop allowing people to pull you into emotional environments that disrupt your peace. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. It means you've learned that your peace has value and you're no longer willing to trade it for temporary satisfaction. Because let's be honest, half the things we react to don't even matter a week later. But the energy we spend on them, that's gone for good. There's a difference between being available and being accessible. Being available means you show up when it matters. Being accessible means anyone can reach you at any time for any reason and disrupt your mental space. And a lot of people are too accessible. You let people drop their problems on you without permission. You let negativity enter your space without boundaries. You let distractions interrupt your focus without resistance. And over time, that access becomes a burden. Guarding your energy requires boundaries. Not the kind you explain over and over again, but the kind you enforce through your actions. Boundaries say, I'm not engaging in this. Boundaries say, this conversation isn't healthy for me. Boundaries say, I value my peace more than I value being right. And yes, some people won't understand it. Some people might even be offended by it. But the same people who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always struggle with your growth. You have to stop feeling guilty for protecting your peace. You are not responsible for carrying everyone else's emotional weight. You are not required to fix every problem or solve every conflict. And you are definitely not obligated to respond to every trigger that comes your way. Maturity is learning the difference between what deserves your attention and what deserves your distance. And let's talk about internal energy, because it's not just about what's happening around you, it's also about what's happening within you. Some of the biggest drains don't come from people, they come from overthinking, self-doubt, and unresolved emotions. If your mind is constantly replaying situations, imagining worst-case scenarios, or holding on to things you should have released, you're draining yourself from the inside out. Guarding your energy also means managing your thoughts. It means being intentional about what you allow to live in your mind. You have to start asking yourself better questions. Instead of, why do they do that to me? Ask, why am I still giving this my energy? Instead of, how do I prove them wrong? Ask, is this even worth my peace? Because when you shift your focus, you shift your energy. And when you shift your energy, you change your experience. The truth is, everything doesn't deserve access to you at your highest level. Some things can only reach you if you come down to meet them. Drama needs your participation. Negativity needs your reaction. Conflict needs your engagement. But if you stay grounded, if you stay disciplined, if you stay intentional, those things lose their power because they can't survive without your energy. Guarding your energy also means being careful about what you consume. What you watch, what you listen to, who you follow, it all matters. Because whatever you constantly expose yourself to will eventually influence how you think and how you feel. If you're always surrounded by negativity, you'll start to feel heavy. If you're always consuming drama, You'll start to expect chaos, but if you feed your mind with growth, clarity, and purpose, your energy will start to reflect that. And here's the part that most people don't talk about. Guarding your energy will change your relationships. Some people won't have the same access to you anymore. Some conversations won't feel the same. Some environments won't feel comfortable. And that's not a loss. That's alignment. You're not losing people, you're outgrowing patterns. At the end of the day, your energy is one of your greatest assets. It determines how you show up, how you respond, and how you move through life. And if you don't protect it, everything else will suffer. Your peace, your progress, your purpose. So you have to make a decision. Not everything deserves you. Not everything requires you. And not everything is worth you. Guard your energy like it's sacred, because once you start treating it that way, everything around you will have to adjust. Master the pause before the reaction, because in that small space between what happens to you and how you respond lies your real power. Most people don't realize it, but their lives are being shaped not by events, but by their reactions to those events. The problem is many of those reactions are automatic, they're emotional, impulsive, and unexamined. Something happens, and before they even think they respond, before they process, they speak. Before they understand, they assume. And in doing so, they give away control of their behavior to whatever triggered them in the first place. That's why the pause is so important. The pause is where awareness lives. It's where you step back from the situation and say, let me not become a prisoner of this moment. Because not everything that provokes you deserves a response. Not everything that triggers you deserves your energy. But if you don't pause, you don't get to choose, you just react, and reactions, when they're unmanaged, often create consequences that last much longer than the situation that caused them. Think about how many times a quick reaction made something worse. A message sent too fast, words spoken out of frustration, decisions made in anger, and later when the emotion fades, clarity shows up, but by then, the damage is already done. The pause protects you from that. It gives you space to let the emotion settle so you can respond with intention instead of impulse. The truth is, emotions are not the enemy, they are signals. They tell you that something matters, that something touched you, that something needs attention. But emotions were never meant to be your leader. They were meant to be your messenger. When you react without pausing, you let the messenger take control. When you pause, you get to listen without losing control. You get to feel without being driven by the feeling. Mastering the pause doesn't mean you become passive or silent in every situation. It means you become intentional. It means you take a moment to ask yourself, what is the best response here? Instead of defaulting to, what do I feel like doing right now? Because what you feel like doing in the moment is not always what's best for your future. Some of you have been conditioned to react quickly. Maybe you grew up in environments where you had to defend yourself immediately. Maybe you learned that silence meant weakness, so you trained yourself to respond fast and respond strong. But what worked in one season of your life might be hurting you in another. Growth requires you to unlearn certain patterns and replace them with discipline. The pause is a discipline. It doesn't always feel natural at first. In fact, sometimes it feels uncomfortable. You might feel the urge to speak, to respond, to prove a point, but choosing to pause requires restraint. It requires self-control. And self-control is one of the highest forms of strength. Anybody can react. Anybody can say what's on their mind in the heat of the moment. But it takes maturity to hold your peace, to gather your thoughts, and to respond in a way that aligns with who you're becoming. When you master the pause, you start to notice things you used to miss. You notice tone, context, and intention. You begin to realize that not everything is personal. Sometimes people are projecting their own stress, their own insecurity, their own frustration. And if you react to that without pausing, you end up carrying emotions that were never yours to begin with. But when you pause, you create separation. You allow yourself to see clearly instead of reacting blindly. The pause also gives you the opportunity to choose your battles wisely, because the reality is everything is not worth addressing. Everything is not worth correcting. Everything is not worth your time. But if you react to everything, you'll find yourself constantly in conflict, constantly drained, constantly distracted. The pause helps you filter what matters from what doesn't. It helps you decide what deserves your attention and what deserves your silence. There's also a psychological shift that happens when you practice pausing. You begin to feel more in control of yourself. You stop feeling like your emotions are running your life. Instead, you start to realize that you have authority over how you respond. That awareness builds confidence. It builds stability. It creates a sense of inner peace, because you're no longer at the mercy of every external situation. And let's be honest, people will test you. Situations will challenge you. Life will present moments that push your patience, your pride, and your emotions. That's inevitable. But what's not inevitable is how you respond. That's where your power lies. Not in controlling what happens, but in controlling what happens within you. Mastering the pause also improves your relationships. Because when you stop reacting impulsively, you communicate more clearly, you listen more effectively, you respond with understanding instead of assumption. And that changes the dynamic. It reduces unnecessary conflict. It builds respect. It creates space for healthier conversations. Because people don't just respond to your words, they respond to your energy. And when your energy is calm and controlled, it influences the entire interaction. But you have to be intentional about practicing this. The pause doesn't just happen. You have to choose it. It might be a deep breath before you respond. It might be taking a moment of silence. It might be stepping away from the situation temporarily. Whatever it looks like, it's about creating space between the trigger and the response. And in that space, you ask yourself the right questions. Is this worth my energy? What outcome do I actually want? Will this response help or hurt the situation? Those questions slow you down enough to make a better decision. Because when you slow down your reaction, you speed up your growth. The goal is not to suppress your emotions, it's to manage them. It's to feel without losing control. It's to respond without regret. It's to move through situations with clarity instead of chaos. Because at the end of the day, your reactions shape your reality. They influence your relationships, your opportunities, and your peace of mind. And if you can learn to master that one moment, the moment before you react, you can change the direction of your life. So don't rush to respond. Don't feel pressure to react immediately. Give yourself permission to pause. Because sometimes the most powerful move you can make is not what you say or do in the moment, but what you choose not to do. Master the pause and you master yourself. Detach emotion from every situation, because when you allow every circumstance to control how you feel, you surrender your power. Too often people believe that life is about what happens to them, but the truth is, life is about how they respond. And the problem is, many of us respond emotionally first and think later, letting anger, frustration, disappointment, or fear dictate our actions. Emotions are powerful, yes, but they are not absolute truth. And they are not always aligned with what is best for you. If you want to grow, if you want to succeed, if you want to maintain peace in a chaotic world, learning to detach your emotions from situations is non-negotiable. Detaching your emotions does not mean ignoring them or pretending they don't exist. It doesn't mean being cold, unfeeling, or indifferent. Emotions are part of being human. They are signals, guiding lights, and feedback mechanisms that tell you what matters to you. But when you let them lead you unchecked, they become tyrants. Anger can make you say things you regret. Fear can paralyze you. Hurt can keep you stuck. Emotional attachment to every little inconvenience or insult creates a life ruled by reaction rather than intention. Detachment is the skill of observing your emotions without letting them drive your choices. It's the art of being aware and present without being enslaved. Most people confuse caring deeply with reacting strongly. They think that if they are upset, it means they care. If they get hurt, it means they are sensitive. But being sensitive to life circumstances does not require giving your emotions full control. You can care deeply, love intensely, and still maintain emotional stability. You can respond to injustice, disappointment, or betrayal without being consumed by it. Detachment is not apathy, it is clarity, composure, and intentionality. It's choosing to not give power to things that are temporary, external, or beyond your control. Emotions are like waves in the ocean. They rise, they fall, they crash, and they retreat. You can either be tossed around by them, or you can learn to surf them. Detachment is learning to ride the wave instead of being drowned by it. It's recognizing that just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to act on it immediately. It's pausing, observing, and making decisions from a grounded place rather than a reactive one. Every time you give your emotions free rein, you weaken your ability to lead your life effectively. Every time you detach, you strengthen it. Detachment also requires perspective. A lot of people get caught up in small offenses and minor inconveniences, allowing them to dictate their mood and their actions. They react to rude comments, perceived slights, or traffic delays as if these things are life or death. But detachment teaches you to step back and see the bigger picture. You realize that most things that upset you are fleeting. Most things that hurt you don't define you. And most things that challenge you are temporary. The more you can view life from this perspective, the less control your emotions have over you. This doesn't happen overnight. Detachment is a discipline that requires awareness and practice. It begins with self-reflection. Ask yourself, am I reacting to the situation or am I letting my emotions control me? Learn to name the feeling experiencing without judging them or acting impulsively. Anger, disappointment, sadness, and frustration are not enemies. They are indicators. But they are not instructions. Once you recognize that, you can create a buffer between feeling and action. One of the most important aspects of detaching emotion is understanding boundaries. Many emotional reactions happen because people allow external factors, other people's words, actions, or opinions to penetrate too deeply. Boundaries are a protective measure. They are a way of saying, I will not give my inner peace to things that are not mine to carry. Whether it's a toxic conversation, a manipulative relationship, or unnecessary criticism, learning to detach means you can engage without internalizing. You can participate without being consumed. You can interact without letting external negativity define your internal state. Detachment also strengthens resilience. When you stop personalizing every challenge, every conflict, every inconvenience, you free yourself to respond strategically instead of emotionally. You begin to see setbacks as lessons rather than attacks. You begin to see criticism as feedback rather than condemnation. You begin to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. The more you detach, the more capable you become of navigating life without being derailed by every emotional wave. Detachment improves decision-making. Emotional decisions are rarely wise. They are often reactive, impulsive, and short-sighted. Detachment allows you to think clearly, assess objectively, and choose deliberately. It allows you to make choices based on your values, your goals, and your long-term vision rather than on temporary feelings. This is where true growth happens. When emotion is removed from the equation, wisdom can lead the way. Detachment is not about isolation, it's about connection with intention. You can still love, care, and empathize deeply, but without allowing your emotional state to be hijacked by every situation. You can still be compassionate without being drained. You can still engage without being consumed. This is a higher level of emotional intelligence, the ability to navigate life with both heart and mind without letting either dominate in a destructive way. The world will constantly try to provoke you. People will say things, do things, and behave in ways that are frustrating, hurtful, or unjust. Life will present disappointments, delays, and losses. But detachment allows you to maintain your composure. It allows you to act from a place of stability rather than chaos. It allows you to be present, effective, and intentional even when circumstances are far from ideal. Practicing detachment also gives you energy. You stop wasting emotional fuel on things that don't matter. You stop replaying situations, harboring resentment, and obsessing over what cannot be changed. Instead, you conserve your energy for things that are meaningful, productive, and aligned with your purpose. Emotional detachment is not about suppressing life. It's about prioritizing life wisely. At the end of the day, detaching emotion from situations is a form of freedom. It frees you from unnecessary pain, from impulsive mistakes, from reactive cycles that keep you stuck. It frees you to make better decisions, build stronger relationships, and maintain inner peace no matter what happens around you. Life will never stop challenging you, but how you respond to those challenges determines the quality of your life. When you detach, you no longer live at the mercy of every circumstance. You become the master of your internal state. You can experience life fully without being consumed by it. You can love without losing yourself. You can engage without being overwhelmed. You can act with clarity and purpose rather than reacting with emotion. Detachment is not a denial of life. It is an embrace of self-mastery. It is the choice to respond from wisdom rather than instinct. It is the decision to protect your peace while still participating fully in the world. And when you learn to detach your emotions from every situation, you unlock a level of freedom, clarity, and power that allows you to rise above chaos, maintain composure, and live intentionally in every season of life. Life will always be unpredictable, but your emotional state doesn't have to be. Detach, observe, and respond. That is how you live beyond reaction and step into true control over your mind, your heart, and your destiny. Choose peace over proving a point, because far too many people trade their serenity for the fleeting satisfaction of being right. Life constantly presents situations where your ego, your pride, or your desire to be acknowledged will tempt you to argue, debate, or defend yourself. And in the moment, it might feel necessary, justified, or even righteous. But here's the reality. Proving your point rarely produces lasting fulfillment. What it often produces is conflict, tension, and regret. Peace, on the other hand, is lasting grounding and empowering. Choosing peace is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the discipline to recognize that some battles are not yours to fight and some victories are not worth the cost to your emotional well-being. Many people mistake proving a point for strength. They think that standing their ground in every disagreement demonstrates power. But true strength is not about winning arguments, it's about maintaining control of yourself. It's about refusing to give your energy away to minor provocations, unnecessary debates, or people who thrive on conflict. When you choose peace, you choose a higher standard. You rise above the need to be validated, and you preserve your emotional and mental energy for what truly matters. Choosing peace requires perspective. Often the things that push our buttons, irritate us, or make us feel the need to respond are trivial in the grand scheme of life. A careless comment, an unfair critique, or a minor inconvenience can feel monumental in the moment, but in reality, they are temporary and insignificant. When you pause and evaluate the situation, you begin to see that maintaining your peace is more valuable than winning a fleeting argument. It's not about giving up, it's about prioritizing your inner calm over external recognition. Ego is one of the biggest barriers to peace. Our ego wants to be right. It wants to defend itself, justify itself, and prove its worth to the world. But when the ego drives your decisions, you lose sight of what truly matters. The pursuit of being right can cost you relationships, focus, and even opportunities. When you choose peace over proving a point, you are effectively saying, I value my inner stability more than the fleeting satisfaction of being acknowledged. That choice changes everything. It frees you from unnecessary conflict and positions you to respond from a place of clarity rather than reaction. It's also important to recognize that other people's need to be right is not your responsibility. You cannot control how others perceive you, how they respond, or whether they accept your viewpoint. Trying to force understanding or agreement often leads to frustration and wasted energy. Choosing peace means you release the need to control their reactions. You acknowledge that your worth is not determined by their validation, and you refuse to sacrifice your calm to satisfy their ego or expectations. Choosing peace over proving a point does not mean you avoid confrontation at all costs. It means you pick your battles carefully. It means you discern which situations truly deserve your engagement and which do not. There are times when addressing an issue is necessary when your values, safety, or integrity are at stake, but there are far more situations that are unnecessary conflicts rooted in pride, ego, or a temporary desire to be acknowledged. Knowing the differences where emotional intelligence and spiritual maturity meet, a lot of people underestimate the power of silence. Silence is often seen as weakness, but it can be one of the strongest tools you have. Choosing not to respond to provocation, refusing to argue over trivial matters, and walking away from unnecessary conflict are all acts of strength. When you choose silence instead of confrontation, you are protecting your peace and conserving your energy for meaningful action. You demonstrate that you are not controlled by impulses, emotions, or external pressures. You are guided by purpose and clarity. Choosing peace also improves relationships. Many conflicts are fueled by the desire to be right. People argue, debate, and clash because they need the validation of being acknowledged. But when you prioritize peace, you stop reacting to that need. You create space for understanding, empathy, and compromise. Relationships thrive when people feel safe, respected, and unpressured to win arguments. Choosing peace fosters trust and reduces unnecessary tension, allowing connections to grow without the weight of ego-driven conflict. It is important to understand that peace is an active choice, not a passive state. It requires discipline, awareness, and intentionality. It requires you to recognize triggers, control reactions, and evaluate consequences. Choosing peace does not mean ignoring injustice or avoiding responsibility. It means engaging with wisdom, not impulse. It means acting from a grounded place rather than a reactive one. Every time you consciously choose peace, you reinforce the habit, and over time, it becomes a natural way of responding to life's challenges. One of the challenges of choosing peace is that it often requires humility. Humility means you accept that being right is not always necessary, and that letting go of an argument does not diminish your value. Humility allows you to step back from the need to prove yourself and focus on what truly matters: your growth, your relationships, and your sense of well-being. Humility does not weaken you. It strengthens your character, builds resilience, and fosters wisdom. Another aspect of choosing peace is learning to release the need for immediate gratification. Proving a point often brings a temporary rush, a feeling of dominance, validation, or satisfaction, but this rush fades quickly, leaving behind fatigue, resentment, or regret. Peace, on the other hand, is lasting. It allows you to preserve your emotional and mental energy, making you more capable of handling bigger challenges, making wiser decisions, and living a life aligned with purpose. Choosing peace over proving a point also enhances your mental clarity. When you are not consumed with defending yourself or arguing endlessly, your mind is free to focus on solutions, opportunities, and growth. You are no longer distracted by ego-driven conflicts or consumed by unnecessary stress. Instead, you can channel your energy into productive action, intentional decision making, and meaningful pursuit. The more consistently you choose peace, the more clarity, stability, and focus you cultivate. It is also a spiritual principle. Many spiritual teachings emphasize the value of inner peace, calmness, and emotional stability. Choosing peace is not only practical, it is aligned with living a life guided by wisdom, purpose, and grace. When you prioritize peace, you cultivate a mindset that attracts positive experiences, healthy relationships, and greater resilience. Peace becomes a foundation from which you navigate life with strength, integrity, and intentionality. Life will always test your patience. People will challenge you. Situations will frustrate you. Circumstances will tempt you to react defensively or assert your rightness. But each time you choose peace over proving a point, you reclaim control of your inner state. You demonstrate maturity, self-mastery, and strength. You show that your worth is not dependent on external validation and that your energy is reserved for what truly matters. Ultimately, choosing peace over proving a point is about prioritizing what lasts over what is temporary. It is about valuing your inner stability more than your ego. It is about responding with wisdom rather than reacting with emotion. It is about recognizing that life's battles are not always worth the fight and that true power lies in maintaining composure, clarity, and focus. When you consistently choose peace, you create a life free from unnecessary conflict, filled with intentionality and aligned with your highest purpose. Choosing peace over proving a point transforms your life from reactive to intentional. It allows you to rise above trivial conflicts, preserve your energy, and maintain a grounded, resilient state of mind. It is a choice you make daily, moment by moment, and with each choice, you grow stronger, wiser, and more capable of living a life of purpose, clarity, and fulfillment. Peace is not passive. It is your most powerful act of self-mastery.